Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Abrahamic Family House. We are truly delighted to have you with us for another gathering of the Asmaa series. This program was created to reflect the values that lies at the core of our mission and the document of human fraternity. Each month, we come together to explore a theme such as dialogue, coexistence, respect, wisdom, not only to understand it better, but to consider how we can embody these principles in our daily life. Please join me in giving him a warm welcome, Professor Joel Hayward.
Thank you. I think a lot about, in particular, my religious tradition. I read books about the life of the Prophet Muhammad, and was taken actually by the message of the Quran, which is a message quite strong, promoting interfaith dialogue. And that's something that might surprise people, because we think of the Quran as being quite strict about, for example, the issue of the Trinity. And we think, oh, well, that separates Muslims from Christians. And there are criticisms, for example, of the Jewish people in the Quran. But actually, amongst all of those things, there's a lot of praise for fellow believers. And the word mu'minun is used not only for the Muslims in the Quran, but for the Jews and the Christians, who are called the Ahl al-Kitab, the people of the book. And I think a lot about what the Quran tells us about dialogue. The Quran in particular says, "Say, O people of the book, come to a word that is common between us and you, that we worship none but God, and that we associate no partners with him." And that sense of commonality, a common word, tells me that this is a religion that wants to get on with people, that doesn't want separateness. I think about what the Quran says about how to speak in dialogue to other peoples. And it says this: don't argue with the people of the book, that's the Jews and the Christians, except in a way that is best. In a way that is best. And the word best that it uses has a connotation of sweetness. Use your best words. Speak in the best way, with courtesy and with respect. So I think a lot about that. I think about the fact that the Quran says that there's no compulsion in religion. It says, La ikraha fid din, no compulsion. You can't make somebody believe something. They believe it or they don't. And if they believe something that's different, that's okay. Because the Quran also says, Lakum dinakum waliya din. To you, you have your way, and to me, I have my way. And that principle of respectful coexistence is immensely moving to me. And I think a lot about that. But unless we listen to each other and hear each other's concerns and frustrations, we won't honestly move forward. So listening is perhaps the hardest skill embedded within any type of interfaith diplomacy or dialogue. And it has to be honest and it has to be sensitive. We have to be able to talk openly and to listen respectfully. It's not about staying silent, it's about sharing sincerely. I think a lot about the issue of commonality. I came from a different religion into Islam. And actually, the first time I read the Quran, I thought, I know these prophets. They were already my prophets. And I know all of them and all of their stories. And the stories, of course, are the same. And so I knew immediately that there's a lot of commonality. But we also have differences. And the differences matter. And we shouldn't hide them away and pretend that they don't. And humans, we are untrusting of different people. We have a natural tendency to disbelieve people that don't believe the same things as us. And it's a strange paradox within interfaith dialogue. I believe my religion to be true. I believe that. That's why I chose it. Which by inference means I believe other religions to be either untrue or less true. And I challenge anyone who's religious to deny that in their case. That's what we are as religious people. But we have to get past that and say, actually, as humans, we are all on this world together, and our situation is remarkably equal. That we all face the same tests and the same challenges and the same difficulties. And we all want essentially the same types of things. I think a lot about the nature of religion as opposed to the nature of, say, science. Science has a method for establishing truth that doesn't rest on some type of personal inner conviction. Yet that's what religion is. Religion is this deep inner personal conviction. And there's no way, actually, of objectively establishing that belief we have that our religion is the true one. In fact, there's as much evidence for the truth of every other religion or the untruth of every other religion. Because the method we have for establishing what is true is different to the method we have for establishing with certainty what we believe. And I think this sits at the heart, again, of how we engage with people of other faiths. It's important not to try to persuade others, but to seek understanding. And a good guiding principle is, I listen to understand, not to refute. And interfaith has a normative function. It's about change. It's about making the world better, not just philosophizing about it, not just saying what do Catholics believe, what do Jews believe, but how can we as people of different faiths come together to make the world safer and better for everyone? And I was quite struck by the fact that this country has taken a very active lead in this. And one of the things that appeals to me is this strengthened emphasis on good relations with people who are different. This country has workers from, and guests from almost every country on earth. There's about 195 countries. This country has people from just about every single one of them. And it has large populations of Christians and Hindus and Sikhs and Buddhists and now Jews. That's a good thing. It is a wonderful thing. And that started with a set of ideas about tolerance, about peaceful coexistence. And these ideas go back to the founder of this country, Sheikh Zayed himself. Nothing happens immediately. It's taken time. The country has grown. But as part of its growth, its ideas have grown and matured. And that new ministry, the Ministry of Tolerance and Coexistence, as it's now called, from 2016, eventually gave birth to the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together. I was in the country here. I remember it was just before COVID, and I read in the newspaper that the Pope was coming. And I'm not Catholic, I'm Muslim, but I was very happy, and I went to see the Pope. And the Pope was wonderful. And in the Islamic religious tradition, we place a great deal of respect on Al-Azhar University in Egypt. And the Grand Imam of Azhar, I saw him walk hand in hand with the Catholic Pope. I thought, I'd never see such a thing with my eyes. I thought I'd never see it on TV, let alone in reality. But I saw it here in Abu Dhabi and was moved by that. And the Pope himself took this very seriously. He said that this document on human fraternity was, quote, no mere diplomatic gesture, but a reflection born of dialogue and common commitment. I can't think of many ideas more worthy than this set of interfaith ideas which are designed to bring down barriers and to extend hands in friendship. So I'll leave it at that and wonder perhaps if you have any questions.
How do we get to have actual dialogue among people? How do we get youth, for example, to be able to have meaningful dialogues? It's not as, someone gives a talk, and then there's no dialogue. It's just giving your prepared remarks.
It's a long-term project. Something like the Abrahamic Family House, by its mere existence as a focus for discussion on interfaith, and a testament to the government's commitment to it, means that as a consequence of that, people are seeing that this is important in this country, and that will have a drip-down effect. Already I know that people come through in parties to this place to look and to learn. For some people, it's the first time they've ever set foot in a mosque, for example, or in a synagogue, or in a church. And I know a lot of Muslims who have never set foot in a church. And I know a lot of Christians, for example, who have never set foot in a synagogue, wouldn't have a clue what it looks like inside. They come here and they see that. It's designed to have that drip-down effect that I mentioned. And it has academic programs that are going to have an effect and create scholarly ideas and opinion pieces about the value of interfaith. And the people that come, we hope, are going to get exposed to ideas about what matters. And so that's a positive thing. Interfaith works best at all levels. Institutions like this, which have government support, right down to local community level and schools. And interfaith is very strong, for example, in America. And even with the popular Islamic leaders that you see on YouTube, like Omar Suleiman, Yasser Qadi, people like that, who are famous da'iyas in America, preachers, they are meeting with church leaders. They are talking in churches, and they're inviting people to their mosques, sitting down, and they're filming it and talking about similarities and differences. And millions of young Christian kids and Muslim kids are watching this type of dialogue. One of the things that I notice interfaith leaders are good at is coming together over issues to do with poverty and literacy. We all know that it's not right that people can't read. We all know that it's wrong where people are starving, because our moral codes are grounded in our religious traditions, and our religions tell us they're wrong. And because God tells us they're wrong, we feel some type of unction, some type of compulsion to do something about it. And we've come to realize that, as I said earlier, doing it together is doing better than doing it alone. I think one of the good things that I've noticed about at least interfaith dialogue is the acceptance that some people actually don't have faith, and that's okay. And so, while it's focused mostly on people talking to each other in the faith communities, it's based on an awareness that not only don't they actually speak for the religions, but they're speaking on behalf of everyone of faith or not. And the concept that there's no compulsion in religion, it's a personal choice. Believe, you choose to be a Muslim, you choose to be a Hindu or Buddhist, or you choose to be nothing. So I think that, again, tolerance is not just about people who are similar, but about people who are different. And a tolerant society is one that's inclusive of people of no belief or different beliefs.
Many historians actually kind of contest this idea that Al-Andalus was a period of interfaith utopia. So my question is, do we need a historical precedent for interfaith dialogue to believe in it today?
You have moments only of coexistence, of wonderful, happy, harmonious coexistence and mutual sharing and mutual learning. And I think the goal is to try and create a perpetual state of coexistence. That's the goal. And my hope is that these efforts at interfaith that exist in this country and throughout the world are going to create a perpetual state of tolerance and coexistence. I think that this country realizes that truly it wants a happy population and happy guests. For as long as we're here, it wants us to live well here and to be happy here. And happy people, if they're religious, are the people that can worship in their religious houses. And this country said, let's give them that. And that's pretty special.